Hey everybody, Nerdy Tarot here. Today I've got the Two of Swords as the opportunity and the King of Pentacles as the obstacle. What should we start? Let's start with the obstacle. So, King of Pentacles, we're dealing with a character here. This is a person who is quite adept at financial, not just money matters, but things of value on a higher plane. So you start looking into politics and the kind of things that are valuable in politics. There's if someone were to ask you, if you would rather have the kind of money that could get you political power, or the kind of political power that could get you money, which would you which would you choose? I think that often as people mature and experience, I don't know, advancing in the direction of becoming self-sufficient or even successful at generating money, often they get to a point where they realize that all that hard work and all that money earning just gets destroyed by some new political change, some law, something. And there's often a lot of, I don't know, discouragement. People in that situation often think like, why have I been spending all this time actually, you know, working on like real things, products, services, things, when instead I could have just been investing an equal amount of my time and energy into just becoming an established political figure that could just rearrange other people's wealth. And political power is one of those things that is often ignored until either it's too late, or at least until you know you kind of kick yourself in the butt for having missed out on some good years that you could have spent investing in politics. Now, politics doesn't apply everywhere, and obviously not to everyone. It's one of those things that starts to affect you more and more as you become more and more successful. So there's a lot of people that, in a way, are blessed not to have to deal with regulations and oversight committees because they just, hey, you know what? I go to my bartending job, I hang out with some people, I make some tips, I go home, I relax. That's it. I don't have to worry about it. But this character I think represents someone who is adept at not just not just managing and controlling valuable things like money and resources, but human resources. And there's there's something interesting about this card in particular. Um, this is the only king in the Marseille that is not seated on a throne, and it kind of looks like he's outside, and he's not really dressed like what most of the other kings are wearing. He doesn't really have any of the regalia, you know. And I think that there's like in this one too, in the Waite, he's outside. He's not inside of some sort of abstract throne room. He's outside. He's surrounded by plants. He's like a man of nature, and I think that this is deceptive, and I think it's intentionally deceptive, and I think that's one of the things that this card warns about. I think this card is more of a warning than not. But if you know why something is potentially dangerous, you could just easily flip that to your advantage, right? It's largely just becoming aware and paying attention to these things that really helps you out, helps you get ahead, helps you not get into trouble. But yeah, I think there's something about these kinds of individuals. And the other thing that the king is sort of an archetype for is the kings are always, they're like reaching to the new territory, reaching out to expand the boundaries. They always have their eye on the external, whereas the queens they're minding the internal. They're internally focused. They're really good at managing their own household, kingdom, company, community, whatever the scope they exist on. The kings are always kind of looking out to, what's on the other side of the fence, what's across the perimeter. And I think that one of the ways of behaving politically that's very effective when you do these kinds of things with money and resources on your mind is to take on the appearance of a person of nature, um, almost like particularly in the Marseille, like this guy is often described as like he's kind of more like maybe like a successful farmer or something like that. He's not like a king, but I think this is exactly the kind of things that often people really do well to either disguise themselves as, or they genuinely pursue um, th- these kinds of activities. There's there's a lot of amazing movie tropes that I think are really apt, um, depictions of this kind of archetype. It's like in any gangster movie, almost. I mean, but in a lot of gangster, I'm thinking of Scarface in particular, but a lot of these gangster movies, when the gangsters they go and meet the guy who's like, you know, the guy who grows all of the coca leaves, has the huge drug plant or whatever, like the super rich guy that's in Bolivia or something. It's like that guy almost always is wearing like he's wearing jeans and a flannel. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a farmer. My dad was a farmer. We're just, he drives a pickup." It's like these really really it's not even that they're really rich guys. It's like they're incredibly politically powerful. And then I think that it seems to go hand in hand with that incredible amount of power is that you dress yourself down like, oh, you're just this average common man, really disguise the fact that unlike all those other common men and women, you can make one phone call and like a neighborhood could disappear or something, like it's this kind of disguise. You're disguising yourself as this not even a man of the people. You're just a man of nature. You just work the field like everyone else. And so I think that often when interacting with an individual who already has that kind of presence, it could be worthwhile to be wary of how much more politically powerful they actually are. Or if you're seeking out a partnership, let's say you're working in politics, or you know you're trying to decide between who to back or who to partner with or who to invest in. This could even be on a really small scale, but generally, the less the less political influence people have, the more they try to look like what they think a powerful, politically influential person looks like. The more they try and emulate that. So it's generally the people who have really no influence at all that have lavish fucking clothing, jewelry, and all this shit, and then it's the really capable people, the really potentially dangerous people that look pretty down to earth. Um, so yeah, I think it helps to recognize that aspect of these individuals. That's kind of on your side if you're trying to uh, figure out who's going to be potentially more useful or better to work with. Also, those kinds of individuals, those powerful individuals, because they're so invested in either the theater, the charade of appearing like they're working men, or a lot of those guys, honestly, after a certain amount of time of dealing with that amount of power and control, they are naturally drawn to the opposite. I think it's a similar phenomenon, although not exactly the same, but it has similarities to people who are in positions of power, uh, executives or whatever. It's not that uncommon for those people to seek out um, like some dominatrix who's going to engage in like you know uh, the kind of BDSM where like this really powerful person is going to get like tied up, yelled at, spat on, kicked around, they're gonna they're gonna be made to embarrass themselves. It's like it seems like there's only so much power people can handle before this need arises to balance it. And I think that those individuals who do engage in those kind of balancing activities, even the really weird kind of fetishy ones, I think they're the ones that are actually better off, and they're saner. It's a weird, I imagine anyway, it's a weird nightmare world to live in where everything around you have control over, and therefore by extension everything that happens is directly your responsibility. I can understand how it could be therapeutic to go surrender yourself to something that dominates you. But anyway, so in that sense, if you meet one of these people, well, maybe, and if you are sadistic, you could just offer up your services as a dominatrix. Um, but probably more realistically, if you do end up interacting with one of these people, they will genuinely respond really well to offers of subjugation to menial work, to doing things, particularly if it's, or almost exclusively if it's publicly visible. So if you're like, hey, do you want to help out with this groundbreaking and whatever, and like, as long as, for them, as long as they know that they're going to be seen publicly as engaging in some sort of act where they like get their hands dirty, these individuals are all over it. And then also inversely, if you offer that kind of a thing to an individual that you think might be influential, and if they turn you down, chances are they're probably not that politically powerful, and they've just done a good job imitating some of those features, um, but yeah, the also, I mean, like the really powerful, they just end up having a lot of free time, which again I think is torture for a lot of people. But yeah, and then looking at the opportunity, I started piecing together a new paradigm, a new sort of overarching structure that I'm hoping maybe I'll even publish in the next little while. And this was one of the first cards that I was starting to look at. But yeah, Two of Swords right after the Ace of Swords. What's the Ace of Swords? What are the aces? What does it all mean? Um, I think I kind of see this as after after a direction has been picked, this is a moment of stillness where you're like, ideally anyway, the opportunity here for the ideal is to like sit down and really consider first and foremost where you're going, where the aim of this journey is. This, and usually this will apply to some academic interest, to a journey of scientific discovery, to perhaps to a work of writing. It could be. I wouldn't say it would be like writing a nonfiction or a fiction book, but maybe something like a nonfiction. If you're considering writing some sort of instructional work or a manual, or you're thinking about, let's say, doing a meta-analysis of something like that kind of scientific work, but even also, just going out and exploring places, going out into the world to look for information. This is an undertaking that could potentially take a long time, especially, I mean, if you want to do it right. And I think this first step, I think there's a really valuable opportunity in stopping and considering, okay, here's where I want to go. This is the exciting thing. Often people don't really take their eyes off of that. They get that new idea. They're like, oh yeah, new idea. I want to do this. I think it's important to stop, think about all the things you'll be leaving behind, because essentially to commit to any one thing is to leave behind all other options, right? And the more you commit to a singular task or project or person or whatever, the more you cut off all the other things. So I think it's important to stop and consider all those things that you'll be leaving behind. And the goal here it's not to discourage yourself or to second guess yourself, right? Ideally, this new path, this new idea is truly a valuable, remarkable, destination that you should be heading in. But in the future, there will be trials, there will be hiccups, there will be times when things aren't going the way you want them to go. And in those situations, it's really, really valuable to be able to look back on this moment and to be able to remind yourself, like, no, 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 I knew what I was getting into. I knew the things I was leaving behind. And, I remember that moment where I was at the crossroads essentially, and I chose to go ahead with this, fully knowing all the things that I would be leaving behind. This is just one of those situations. Or maybe, this is a situation that I hadn't thought of, but it fits into the category of all the undesirable things I'm going to have to deal with to pursue this desirable thing, right? But so it's like, it's the very first should I stay or should I go kind of question. And I think that answering, giving yourself reasons that back the I'm going, giving yourself reasons why you're going is really valuable. I think um, it's like putting, more gasoline in the tank, you know? It's like really, really shoveling in all the extra coal, really build up that pressure to really, really give you a strong start, get you going, create this. It's you can think about it like a base camp, you know? It's like this is where you're starting to get ready for that journey up the mountain. This is where you decide like what you need for that. Like you're going to carry things with you, right? So do you really need, I don't know, that frivolous junk food, electronic entertainment, whatever? Like if you're packing for a serious ascent, like this is where you decide like what you're not going to take with you, like what's not worth the weight, what's not worth to be carried on this journey. You're deciding all the things that you're willing to let go in the past or leave behind in the past as you go forward on this. Yeah, so I think the opportunity here is just it's that act of like stopping, weighing those options, and it's and I mean, and I really don't think, like I said, I don't think this should be about discouraging yourself from going forward. I think this is like one of those situations where it's like, if you presume you're going forward, then choose like what you're leaving behind, what you're bringing with you, and then why it's okay. How is it easy or difficult to justify the things that you're leaving in the past? But I don't think this should be a decision that potentially discourages you from going ahead with this kind of intellectual pursuit, you know, scientific discovery, uh, quantifying things, counting things, uncovering things with that kind of a pursuit. I think this card I think signifies that this is a worthy pursuit. There are opportunities to reap along this path, and just engage in this sort of your departure checklist, so to speak. So yeah, that's the cards for today. Thanks for watching. Drop me a like if you enjoyed the video. Comment hashtag free reading if you would like to be entered for a draw for a free tarot reading at the end of the week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.